usually takes a moment or two. And then I usually just do this. You see that we're live? There you go. All right, Vice Chairman, you're live.
Thank you. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the first meeting of the 2021 session Public Safety Subcommittee. And this year is going to be huge for the subcommittee because we have a lot of work to do. So I am going to be taking attendance each meeting just for myself and for our official records. And so everyone knows the members of the subcommittee are Delegates Anderson, Delegate Erican, Delegate Bartlett, Delegate Deborah Davis, Delegate Griffith, Delegate Lopez, Delegate McComas, Delegate Moon, Delegate Shetty, I see Moon now, and Delegate Sham. So first, I just want to kind of go over our schedule. We have a tight schedule this week and next week. We're meeting today just probably for a half an hour. We are going to meet Friday at 11:30 to 1. So please block off that time. I don't care if you're munching on your lunch. Okay, that's not a problem. But please block that off. You'll also get this in an email. So that's the 19th. On the 24th, next week, Wednesday, we will meet from 12 to 1. And then next week on the 26th from 11 to 12:30. So in the short term, we intend to take a look at HB 670. And in the not so distant near future, we will be taking a look at HB 671. And hi, Delegate Sham.
Morning. Hi.
So what I will start off by saying, and we just discussed this, so Delegate Moon has heard this, and it was his question in back room. These two, HB 670 and HB 671, are the vehicles being moved through the General Assembly for police accountability and reform and for transparency of records reform. That is not to say that we won't accept amendments on those bills. That is not to say that they are in perfect form right now, because if they were, we would not be convening this subcommittee. But those are the vehicles. So there are a lot of other bills dealing with the same issues. Those will not move through the General Assembly. These are the two vehicles for our purposes. So what I would ask everyone to do, and I think everyone on here has my cell phone number. If you ever have an issue that you think needs to be raised, please feel free, and we aren't addressing it, to text me or to send me an email. Text is the best thing to do for our purposes. So I don't know if everybody's taken a look at HB 670. I know some of you have, because some of you were on the work group. Delegate Deborah Davis was on the work group. Delegates Malone and McComas were on the work group as well. So it has been touted as, air quotes, omnibus bill. Even though it doesn't deal with everything, but it deals with the things that we were charged with doing. So obviously, some of those big components include the repeal of the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, which we will begin discussing next week on Friday. The creation of a use of force statute, which we will discuss. The removal, or I should say, more strict parameters around no-knock warrants, which we will discuss. I already know that Delegate Cardin is going to submit some amendments to this group to take a look at based off his bill that we heard not so long ago, that he said he has reworked with some amendments. So we will take a look at whatever he is proposing as well. Those are the big things. Also, the reconstitution of the membership of the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission is in this bill, and we will take a look at that. The creation of the accountability frame, we will take a look at that in terms of trial boards. So this is going to occupy a lot of our time in terms of trial boards, in terms of creating a charging committee made up of 1/3 of citizen membership. We will also take a look at that. So I want to know, I'm going to just call in the order, no particular order, just as I see you on the screen. What are some of the issues that are important to you? This is what I did in the work group. I met in smaller groups with members and quite frankly took very detailed notes of what was of concern to all of the members. And this bill encompasses, I would say 99% of the things that the members, and it was a bipartisan work group, folks, brought to me when I met with them. So I will start with Delegate McComas. And if you just tell me, we don't have to get into a debate of substance and that, but just kind of overall broad topics. What do you want to make sure we touch on?
I think I'm just going to go down to the numbers. LEOBR, I think that we need to have uniform standards regarding discipline and how we don't have 157 different ways of doing things. And because I think that's going to have problems throughout the state if we do that. The number 2, use of force statute, no-knock warrants. I think that there should be an encouragement to have a specialized group deal with no-knock warrants that do double checks and document the double checks, that they're signed off by the judge as well as signed off by someone higher up in the state's attorney's office, not the person that initially worked with the police to do the research for the no-knock warrant. In other words, that there's supervision in the judiciary and the state's attorney's office. Reconstructing the police academy training. I think you need folks that are specialized in police police psychology and police treatment so that they understand the pressures within the police system. I don't think you want just some psychologist or psychiatrist dealing with that component that does not have the necessary training and background to deal with law enforcement and police. The other thing on the 4th one, the creation of an accountability form on the trial board. If you're going to insist on 1/3 of the people being citizens of the charging committee, I think it's vital that they have the necessary training to understand police procedure and how things work, and have some of the concerns that the police have as well as the community, so that they have a broad understanding. Because you do not have, under the Healthcare Commission, you do not have civilians that do not have a medical background on there to decide whether there's a legitimate claim for malpractice or for disciplining nurses or doctors, or let's say architects, any of the boards. So I think that that's important, that the citizenry have the necessary training so that they can understand the policies and procedures, because this is a profession. And I think we need to understand that it is a profession that has a great deal of training and skill sets.
Thank you. Delegate Bartlett.
So I was trying to do 2 meetings. My other meeting just ended, but
You want me to circle back to you?
Could you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Delegate Griffith.
I certainly echo a lot of Delegate McComas' concerns. I just want to make sure that we're, being fair and equitable, addressing, the concerns of the committee from the summer, and making sure that we're not bringing forth any unintended consequences. So for me, I really want to hear, the concerns of the subcommittee and of you, Madam Vice Chair, and see if we can work through these issues together.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Davis, Deborah Davis.
First of all, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. This is really important work, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to hashing out some of the issues. we were on the subcommittee, we were on the task force together. So I'll just reiterate, definitely use of force. And what's most important to me is changing that standard of review from reasonable. That's the current standard. It has to be changed. It has to be changed to necessary and all the things associated with that. I think that will go a long way. And we spent a lot of time on the law of that. And I'm really excited about that. You didn't expand an MPIA. This is the one time we're going to get to expand MPIA.
So I don't want to cut you off. We are going to deal with 670, but
Okay.
like this week and next week, we're going to just really buckle down and focus on, I'm sorry, I'm at 671. We're going to focus on 670 and then we'll circle back and
Okay.
focus on that.
Okay.
So,
Of course, LEOBR, I think we made great strides with that. And I'm really excited about what we already did with LEOBR. And I guess we're looking at replacement. So that's exciting. What was the other thing? LEOBR, use of force. And we're going to do MPIA later. And independent investigations of use of force cases. I just think that's really, really important. And I know you feel the same way. So I'm excited. And thank you. Looking forward to the conversation.
thank you. Delegate Erican?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of specifics. I mean, I have a whole list. It's too long to go through, probably would bore everybody to tears. But I'd like to sort of go through each section if we can, just make sure we clean up the language, make sure there's no unintended consequences. I think pretty much every page of the bill has stuff that we need to work on. So I don't know how you're planning to go forward. If you're just planning to start on page 1 and just dig into it, I would certainly prefer if we were able to really go methodically through each page. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. Delegate Lopez?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I wasn't a part of the working group, so I'm very excited that we're kicking off this subcommittee. And I'm just going off of my notes from when we had the hearing. For LEOBR, full repeal sounds awesome. I'm excited to hear what forthcoming conversations are coming up about the framework for how that could be replaced and how there's new standards there. For no-knock, I know Cardin's coming up with some amendments, so I'll hold on that. For use of force, I just want to echo Delegate Davis's remarks about moving the standard up to necessary outside of reasonable. I think that's an important thing to explore. For trial boards, I would even increase the percentage of citizens up and talk a little bit more about what that means. And then also, I just want to underscore mental health as a part of the Standards and Training Commission. And from what I can recall from the hearing, I don't have it written down, but I didn't get a real sense of how they're treating that component. And I know we have other bills outside of 670 that are kind of addressing that, but that's where my head's at too.
Okay. And I will say that, I'm just writing a note, sorry. There was one part of the recommendation that we do need to look at related to mental health, where during the hearing, so we said a mental health assessment prior to hiring, which is in the bill. And we heard during our hearing in judiciary, or I can't remember if it's in judiciary, it must have been, that you can't do that. Like that violates your HIPAA or ADA or whatever. So we're going to have to take a look at that. I mean, I'm sorry, you can't do that during the term of employment. You can do it prior to hiring, but not, we had said annual. And so we'll have that conversation about what types of mental health we can do. Shetty?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really appreciate your incredible work in this, as well as all of you in the subcommittee who have been part of the work group. So I have 3 areas that I'm really interested in. I think broadly, and I know this is mostly dealt with in 671, but just a really big fan of public transparency and victim access to the process. which again, I know is primarily the next bill, but I just want to make sure that as we're creating this accountability framework, we're keeping in mind how the people who are alleging improper use of force, for example, are able to be a part of that process somehow, and or at least have some visibility into what's happening throughout. The other main thing, so I'm really excited that the existing bill repeals LEOBR, and I'm really interested in what we replace it with, and making sure that we're continuing to move the ball forward on having a consistent standard across all jurisdictions, while at the same time making sure that we're not unintentionally protecting bad actors. And then third, and I just want to also lift up what Delegate Davis's comments were on the use of force standard, which I think is really important. So thank you again, Madam Chair. Really excited to work with you all on this.
Thank you, Delegate Shetty. Delegate Cham?
Thank you, Vice Chair.
I got it down. I haven't mispronounced your name since I did that first day.
That's good to know, because I will correct you. Yes, I will.
You should, as you should.
All right, good morning, everyone, colleagues. So I think probably what's most important to me is to focus on the police training. Coming from the special ed field and working with people with disabilities, and when they have an encounter out in the community that might require the intervention of police officers, it's really would be helpful that those police officers and law enforcement know how to intervene with people who might have a mental illness, a disability, autism, so some training to kind of help them in those areas. And regarding LEOBR, maybe not throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's certainly some deep discussions that need to occur in that area, but maybe not completely repeal it, but looking at some revisions to see what we can do to help police officers and certainly citizens. We don't want citizens being killed needlessly, harmed in any way physically. So really kind of looking at LEOBR to see what we can do to make sure that officers are held accountable to their actions, but that they are also protected in the work that they do on a daily basis.
Thank you. And last but definitely not least, Delegate Moon.
Thank you, Madam Chair / Vice Chair. So let's see. I was making.
Moon and I, we're like an old married couple. We've been on this committee like together for like 7 years.
We used to sit in the back bench together.
And like.
Yep.
When the former chair would kill all our bills.
That is true. So let me start by throwing my vote behind Delegate Davis's push for a stronger force standard. We did sort of move a little quickly on that one in the work group to look at some of the other weighty issues. So with fresher eyes, I think I would probably push for something a little stronger there. We on this whole discipline issue. I mean, look, there's a lot of theories about what vehicle to use, but here's my bottom line. I want that process to be independent, clearly independent from the police department, from the police officer's department that's being investigated. For me, that's like a very clear thing that the public has to be able to point to and say, it's not that police department that controls it. Second, it has to be clearly within civilian control. A majority has to be non-police. I want to be able to look at whatever we create and say, we did not put in place a process where the police are deciding on their own whether or not discipline moves forward against one of their own officers. So we have to be able to point to something and say, we achieved that. And what that gets to actually is partly one part where I think what we did is silent, that we ought to talk about, which is who is doing this appointing and where are these people? What is this list of people? Who's deciding? And ultimately, even if we say it's an independent body, who do these people answer to? I mean, I'm actually very curious how we set that out. Right now, it's a little bit like the counties are going to create something, but that's pretty vague. So if we're going to go down the road outlined in the speaker's bill, I would like to start to be able to answer some of these questions to, again, get me to that point where I can point to this with a clear conscience and say, this is not the police choosing whether or not their own get disciplined. So beyond that, I started thinking more about this, and we've seen some interesting things in bargaining documents. So where we preempt on discipline, I would actually suggest we preempt on discipline and transparency, and include in the preemption two other aspects that I've seen in some of the bargaining agreements, and that's bargaining for MPIA denials. And the other is bargaining for body cam activation policy and things like this, which all of these topics are discussed at the sort of chief officer level. But I actually think, as a matter of public policy, if we're going down the road and saying you shouldn't bargain for discipline, I also think it's odd to be bargaining against transparency, as we're trying to put in a clearer statewide framework on that. Last 2 points I'd make. One is we didn't include anything on civil suits here, and that was in the Senate's package. So to the extent we're saying the speaker's bills are the places where these conversations are happening, I would hope we could at least address the issue where we're not paying the direct bills, the amount of the bills of people who are found guilty of harming people through police violence. That seems like just at least one piece of this I hope we can shunt in here somehow, is to at least pay their actual medical bills and costs. And beyond that, I have a stack of amendments coming. Some of them are ready. They're on various aspects and tweaks to this law. So if you have a process in mind for how to accept those amendments, I can start delivering some.
Okay, thank you. And last, I said I was going to circle back. So last but not least, Delegate Bartlett.
Thank you. Well, listen, I'm new on this subcommittee, and I had to kind of change my focus just a little bit. And I will say that I am amongst folks who are quite, as we know in judiciary, you guys have thought through a lot, and I've got a little bit of catching up to do, in the sense of I've read the bills, but I wasn't looking at it through all lenses. I was looking at it through more of through a judiciary committee member lens, as opposed to a subcommittee lens. With that said, though, I mean, I looked at there's like a ton of bills on police reform in one way or another. And I am familiar with Delegate Davis's bill. I am very concerned about use of force because of the non-convictions, which is what I was trying to get at with State's Attorney Schellenberg, whatever, the other day. But the reason why I was doing that is because I'm tired of, as we all are, video cameras, phone, everything showing a bad officer that results sometimes in either serious bodily harm or death of an individual, and then that officer is not convicted. I need to see legislation that will get us to more convictions when there is a clear murder, essentially, that happens, or manslaughter maybe. So that's kind of like where I want to look at this, and the lens I want to look at it. How do we control that, if there is any control? And I know this is a national issue, but how can Maryland step up and get that done? The other part is, I've got the police, and I don't know about you, I'm sure you guys too. I've got the police, breathing down my neck, saying, don't take away our rights. Don't take away our rights. So there's that balancing. I also don't want to see citizens, killed, just like we all are. So I think there's going to be, I know there's going to be balancing that has to be done to some degree. It's not going to be a true balance because the victim's rights is always going to be at the forefront of my mind. But I know we also rely heavily on the police to keep us safe. We just need the repeal of LEOBR is something that I want to see personally, and many of my constituents. As I said, the police, the FOP feels, obviously very differently about that. So I kind of, because they are stakeholders, it's very important to me that we listen and try to understand as best as we can what their position is, to the extent that we understand and they understand that our goal is to get rid of or to at least eliminate bad actors. Last point I wanted to make is that part of their concern has been business about LEOBR was created because they didn't want to have, for police chiefs to have the ability to just fire willy-nilly. I think that's an employment issue that we can easily fix. I think that part can easily be fixed. The civilian oversight is crucial to members of my district. That's something that we've been fighting for quite some time. So that's very important, and just tightening that up. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we can get it done. I know we're going to get it done, and I just want to see the best result come out through kind of like a combining of ideas.
Thank you. So the speaker will also be bringing forward some amendments on Friday for us to take a look at as well. So we will do that. I also want to acknowledge Matt Jackson, who will be with us. He is now in the speaker's office, but he staffed the work group. He also staffed the work group on the gun trace task force stuff, whatever, in the Senate. So he knows the stuff in and out. Claire, you all know Claire. She's fantastic. She will be with us. And the Liz Twig you see is my chief of staff. So she will be running, because now if we're virtual, your office has to run your subcommittees if you're in charge of the subcommittee. So Liz you'll be getting emails from her about the links and all that. So she's running the subcommittees. Starting on Friday, we will have the advocates in the room, all sides, from the police chiefs and sheriff's representatives to the ACLU to the leaders of the beautiful struggle to all the interested parties. Just as a reminder, they are not here to testify. We have had a public hearing. If there is a question that someone has specifically, because we're going rounds and we don't know the answer, we can ask them questions. But just like all of our other subcommittees, they are not there to testify because they've already had that opportunity. And so now it's our turn to sit down and hammer this out. The last point I want to make before everybody goes and has lunch, before our marathon of a day we're about to have, is that this went through a bipartisan work group. We had over 30 hours. Those work group members really put a lot into this product. We heard from 100 and some witnesses and were briefed by experts from the state and nationally. It is now up to us to fine tune it and put a stamp on it that we can get through the committee. This is not my bill, this is our bill. And so I would hope that once we put our stamp on it, and I know some of you from the other party across the aisle might not feel this way, but this is our bill. So I would hope that once we put our stamp on this and we vote whatever we're going to do out, that we stay with that in our committee, because those are the changes and those are the amendments that we have voted on and agreed upon, and we all work to get it out of the committee. That's my hope. I am always open if there's ever a time you want to chat about something because you have some concerns, please text me. If I don't get right back to you, it could be because, like, I don't know, a kid had some social studies BS I had to deal with. I don't know. Just text me again until, you know, you get a hold of me. But I am pretty responsive. Delegate Davis, did you have something?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we talk about LEOBR, can we have the Black police officers? They really offered some different information regarding
Okay, I'm writing that down.
employment and you know what I mean, correct?
Okay.
What's the word when discipline? They
I
really offered some good information on that and how LEOBR really didn't fix it. So
Okay,
I think that's important to share with my colleagues.
okay. So does anyone else have some closing comments or questions before we wrap up? Okay, thank you. So, and I will say, I will be starting on time. Thank you everyone for joining. The only person that missed out today is Anderson, and I'm gonna try to figure out where he was. So I will see everybody soon. Get something to eat. Bye. Thanks, everybody.